In this issue, or issues, I'm going to be doing the wheel in full, not speeded up, at the request of a couple of viewers. What could possibly go wrong? Okay, so welcome to issues 54 and 55. I'm doing these together because issue 54 is a bit of a no issue. There's absolutely nothing you can possibly do except look at it. So let me show you issue 54, and we have a set of spokes and we have the outer wheel. And that's it. You can't do anything with it till you get the inner wheel, which is issue 55. So this is issue 55, where we get the clamp, so to speak. I'm going to call that a clamp, and that will hold down the spokes once we've put them in. We also get a couple of JP2 screws, five JP2 screws, and we get the second set of spokes. I believe these are the B's, and you also get the inner wheel. You will also need the jig that we got in the early issue. You'll need this every time you do a wheel, and I personally use a pair of tweezers. I like these wide end rounded ones, and it's got a nice bit on the end, and I find that very useful, mainly for picking up the spokes, but mostly for manipulating things. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to get the outer rim. You see there's a hole there, and that hole is specifically to go into there. And what I found is, maybe not the case with this one, but sometimes that will fall out. So all I'll do is get a little bit of blue tack, as you may have noticed on previous videos. Tiny bits, you don't need much, and we'll just pop a little bit of blue tack either side of that pin, and then all that will do is that will just give it a little bit extra, and that is not coming off under any circumstances. The next thing to put in is the inner wheel, and you'll see there's a little notch in there, and that notch lines up with that notch there. Trying to get a good photo. There it is. And there's no need to do anything with this one, because that little bit of movement actually does help a little bit. So the instructions call for double-sided sticky tape to be placed into there. I find anything sticky really, you just need something just to hold down the spokes while you put them in. And I've been using blue tack. The reason I was using blue tack was because I couldn't find any double-sided sticky tape. So I thought I'll give it a go with blue tack, and we'll see how it turns out. And all you need to do is just roll the blue tack until you get a very long, very thin sausage. Very long, very thin. And then we'll cut that down into manageable pieces. And then we'll place that in there. I'm just trying to find an edge to start with. Sometimes you get an edge on, no, you don't get one on this one. So we will place the sausage in there, and this is where the back of the tweezers comes in handy. If you put too much blue tack on here, as you put everything, that blue tack will squeeze out and it will show on the finished model. So it's better to make the blue tack too thin and then have to put more in than to make it too fat. And what we will do is we will just keep applying blue tack all along. Take your time on this. There we go. I see we've got a long way to go yet, but like most part works, if you take your time here, you will end up with a better result. So not enough blue tack, so we'll just roll some more down and we'll just cut that one maybe into 3. I don't think this is going to be enough either. And what you might find is easier as well, with your little sausage of blue tack, just make one end slightly thinner and then you can overlap it on the existing blue tack. So I don't know if you can see that. Now the focus isn't coming, so there's a little bit of an overlap and then we can squish that in. If you find you put too much in, just there isn't any hair, but you'll just put your tweezers in and just pull it across. But as I say, put too little in rather than too much, because you can always add. But if you put too much in, it's going to make a mess and it might be difficult to remove. So we are just over halfway there. Trouble with blue tack is you take a tiny amount and it looks like you've got enough, or maybe not enough, but by the time you pull it out to a sausage it becomes very, very long. Doesn't matter if it's too long, you can always trim it. There we go, that's going in. So really take your time here, guys. Bit of a lump formed there. And what I've also noticed is that quite often you may not actually need anything to stick the spokes down. Most of the spokes will hold down by themselves, but this just gives a little bit extra security, because if once you've got this piece on, you don't need anything to hold it down, because this piece will hold them down in place perfectly. But it's just, you need this stickiness just while you're doing it. But like I say, some will clip in absolutely fine, but what you find is this will move about as you're putting the spokes in. I am very nearly there now. So yeah, that middle bit will move around a bit while you're putting the spokes in, and it just gives a little bit extra to help prevent them from moving, falling out even. So that one's a little bit too thick, actually, not on purpose. So what I'll do is I'll just pull that blue tack down, and there we go, we've joined up with the original. So I'm going to just take, I think I started life off a little bit too thin on the blue tack, so I'm just going to do a bit of a, should we call it a top up? Go. Right, so I'm happy with that. So one other thing that I find useful, obviously this doesn't apply if this is your first wheel, but if you can get another wheel as well as the magazine, you can then use that wheel as a reference. So looking at the bottom spokes, sorry, looking at the top spokes, which ones are we doing first? We're doing these middle ones. And we can see that they go up and then across to the right, and then sorry, no, they go off to the left. Basically you need to make this one look like that. So this is fallen out, we can just pop that back in, that's not a problem. Right, so let's get our spokes out ready. Now the way that I'm going to arrange these, maybe this is a little bit of OCD, maybe it makes life easier, but I'm going to separate them into piles of 4, and the piles are going to be a pile of 4. Now if you can, you'll see that each one has a hook on one end and a little head on the other. I get the head on the right hand side, and that's purely because I'm right-handed. and I want a pile of 4, another pile of 4, and the reason I'm piling them like this way is I'm going to be doing this wheel in stages, and by having piles like this, it enables me to know where I am on that particular stage. Once you've done 2 piles of 4, you then want to start separating them into 2 piles of 2. So you see I've got 2 and 2, and the reason for this is that you're going to be setting up the 4 main spokes like a clock. Once you've set those up, you're then going to be filling them in, and there might even be 3 sets of 4. Do you know what? I can't remember. So yeah, there should be 4 sets of 2s. 8. Yeah, 4 sets of 2. 8 sets of 2. I can't remember. I can't count. Right, so we have a set of 4, a set of 4, 2 sets of 2, 2 sets of 2, 2 sets of 2, and then 2 sets of 2, all with the heads on this side, so I can hold my wheel in this hand with my tweezers. I can pick up, they're all ready to go, and I can manipulate them into my hands and then put them on. So the first spoke that we're going to be doing is the top row, sorry, the bottom row. So you're actually going into the middle of the wheel first. So that bottom row I can see is going to go off that way. So I'm holding my like this, and I want these two fingers become quite handy as a holder. So what I do is I pick up a spoke, pop it in my hand, then I can grab the head, and then you see I've got the hook on the end, and that's going to go first of all into any spoke that you want, so long as it's the bottom row. Sorry, I'm trying to get the focus. There we go. So it's gone into the bottom row, and then what we do, we let that fall through. We can then use the tweezers, and we need to find this one's actually going that way. So I just need to remove my glasses for a moment. So we are looking for, you see there's some lines there, these are little guides as to where the spokes go. Now some go that way, some go that way, and what you'll find is every other one goes that way, every other one goes that way, and that's where the spokes will line up. So we'll pop that in, and I found a nice line for that to line up into, so we'll just push that into there, hook it over, and I will be honest guys, at this particular point I don't know if this is correct or not. So that's just hooked onto and caught that blue tack. So now we will compare it, and you need to find one that you've already done, and I believe that is absolutely correct. Now what I have found when I did the first wheel that I did took about 4 hours until I figured it out. What happens is as you put that spoke in, it pulls this middle wheel slightly, and then you put the next one in, it pulls it more, and then it pulls it more, and what's happening is it's pulling that wheel up that way. By the time you get round to about halfway or 3/4, it's pulled so tight that eventually all that's going to happen is the whole thing's going to spring off. So we can counter that by turning it round, and then we will see that we've placed the first spoke in there. We now want to place the other spoke opposite, and same way we pick up the spoke, hold it in our fingers, grab it, and we can count if we want to. So I find the previous spoke that's gone in that hole. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12, because there are 24 spokes on each row. Place that through the hole and then let that drop. Check that it is level. It won't look level because this is where it's deceptive. If you hold it, you see it's gone up through that hole there, but it actually looks way off from that one. But what we can then do is, holding this down, we can double check our work. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 10, 11. So I think I've put that in the 11th hole. This is why it's important to double check your work. With that going off at that angle, it does look correct, but then you'll get halfway through and then you'll realize it's not correct. So we'll remove that, we'll keep our eye on the hole, and then we'll place it in the next hole instead. It's very, very easy to lose count, as you can see. So I'm just going to bring the camera down because I notice that my work is drifting towards me. So don't be tempted to pull these across because you'll bend the spoke. To move it, see there, it's actually bent off the wrong way. What you want to do is rotate it on that pivot there. So, and you may even find it easier to put a bit of masking tape on your tweezers. And for some reason this is really difficult. So we're going to place that onto that hole there, and it's going to struggle because it seems like it's not long enough. It is long enough, but it feels like it's not long enough. So use a thumb to help if we want, and then we can just push that over the, there we go. So what that's now done is it's pulled that middle wheel back, and I can see that that's level, but I can still check. So I can count from the outside: 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we've got 2 spokes in now. This is one of the hardest bits. Once we've got the 4th spoke in, it does get easier, I promise you. So pick up the next spoke. Let's see if you can guess where the next one's going. It needs to go halfway between the two. Remember that there's 12 in between, 12 holes between the opposite spokes, so we want to go 6 along. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pull that through, rotate it, find a hole that seems comfortable, which is this one, and then we can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That one's in perfect. So then the 4th one, one, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In that one goes. Find a hole that looks like it could be the one, and then we can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now you'll notice that when I'm counting these notches, I'm counting every other notch. If you want to count every notch, then obviously you double the number. So instead of counting 6, I'll count 12. Right, so that's 4 spokes. So what's happened is, as we've put the spokes in, it's moved that inner wheel up, then it's moved it down, then it's moved it across, then it's moved it back. So you should find that that is now in exactly the same position. However, it has now got tighter. That is really tight in there, and it's not moving. But at least it's equally loaded. So what we're going to do now in the next stage is we're going to put 4 more spokes in, but we're going to put them in between those 4 spokes, those 4 sets of spokes. The set of spokes. So 1, 2, 3, because remember there's 6 holes in between them. So that one is going in to this one, and rotate that round. Don't ever be forced to don't feel the need to pull these hard. You need to rotate it, it will go. So 1, 2, 3, that can go onto there. We'll hook that over. That's gone in absolutely fine. Then we'll turn it around 180 degrees and we'll do the opposite side. 1, 2, 3, and I think this is very much the same thing over and over again, and I'm going to run out of things to talk about, so I don't really want to talk about things that aren't relevant to the build. 1, 2, 3, but I may resort to that. So there's your next 2 in. So we're now going to fill in these large spaces with these last 2 from this set. So 1, 2, 3, one, 2, 3, turn it around 180 degrees, and 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3. Oh, that's gone. That actually fell into place. So there we now have 8 spokes in. So it's looking good now. So now we're up to the stage where we have sets of 2, and we've got 8 sets of 2. So now you can see that we've created 8 gaps. We're now going to fill those gaps. So any one that you want, pick the first one, and we'll pop this one in. You can do 2 at a time if you want here, but I think it's going to be simpler to do 1 at a time. So did you also notice that sometimes what I do, and I'll show you again on the next one, right, that one gone in, and the next one we'll actually put his next door neighbour in. That's why I'm doing sets of 2. So what I can sometimes do is I will drop in the spoke like so, and then I'll use gravity and I'll let it fall down. You see it's fallen, and then we can just manipulate it from there, and then that wants to go there. So you can now see that I've done every other spoke, and every other gap, and that gap will be filled in by the spokes going the opposite way. So then what we'll do is we filled this gap in, so now we'll fill the opposite gap. Remember, we're always trying to work opposite at 180 degrees and 90 degrees. So we'll pop these 2 in, pop it in, let it fall down, give it a push if it doesn't want to fall down. There we go. Oh. And then the last one of this set. Obviously how you pick the spoke up is up to you. When I built this table, I put a little lip all around the edge to stop things from falling off, but then I found I couldn't pick small things up, so I've cut a little hole just in the middle on the edge, and it just means that to pick small things up, all I need to do is just do that and run my hand to the table and I can pick them up. So grab our tweezers, This one's gone underneath the spokes, so we may actually need to pull it right back a little bit and then bring it through. You'll find that as you put it in, it'll naturally want to go that way, but as you pull it through, I've done it again, it's gone underneath. This is more fiddly than it is hard. If you don't have patience, then I'm sorry to say you probably won't do this very well. But having said that, if you break it down into these 4 spokes, I'm convinced it is easier, but also you provide yourself with convenient places to break. So when I've done this spoke, there you go, that's actually knocked that spoke off, but it's enabled me to get that through. So we've just learnt a lesson there. So there we go, put that spoke in, and then I can go back and put this first spoke back in that's just been knocked out. There we go, that's fine. And there we go. So I've actually completely missed. So I meant to do this gap there, but I actually did that one. So it's not a problem. So what I'll do is I'll do this one next, and we'll pick it all up. So there we go. There's a bit of a mistake I've made, but it's not a problem. It just means it's been pulled a little bit downwards. So if I focus on these 2 next, that will pick it up, and that should balance it all out. So next spoke in. So I just also not learnt from a mistake I made earlier. Because of the way the spokes work, you probably want the right hand spoke in first. That one went in absolutely fine, but this one may now cause me trouble. So from the next set of 2, I'll do the right hand side first. And having said that, this one has gone through absolutely fine. And unfortunately, because of my eyesight, sometimes I do have to work really close for small bits of detail. So yeah, so obviously I've not kept the pattern going, so it's a little bit mucked up, but obviously I should have done this one next, which then means I'd do that one. So I'm going to do this one next, and then I'll do this one, and it will all start to fill it all in. So right hand spoke, and really the main skill is learning to manipulate these spokes with a pair of tweezers. So this one, I'm gonna twist it and push it, and that should get that spoke. Now that's got stuck now. There we go. So let's start again. And one other thing to note is that you do not get spare spokes, so do not lose them, please. So we've got that in, and we just learn to twist it. It's something really that you've got to learn to do. I can't really explain it, but the way that they bend and they therefore go through a hole in a particular way, and it's just learning the actions of bent metal going through a straight hole. So we pull, whoops, we pull that through, and then as it goes around the bend, we lift it up, and that's gone in fine. Okay, so next we'll put in, should we put this one in next? So it's just trying to do opposite spokes. That one's gone in lovely. And what it does is it reduces the tension there. If you work your way round in a clock, say for example going from 1 o'clock all the way round to 12 o'clock, all you'll do is you'll just make that tighter and tighter and tighter, and eventually the whole thing will go ping, and like I said, the first time I tried this, I think I gave it about 8 attempts over the course of about 4 hours, and every time it ended in disaster. And then all of a sudden I just thought, right, well, I'll try it this way, and it just suddenly came to me. It doesn't explain that in the magazine. Right, that one I've put over too far, so I'll just lift it up and I'll just push that down there, and then on one of the attempts that I made during that first 4 hours, I did actually manage to get all of these spokes in. There we go, look, we've got all bar 4 in now, so we're really progressing. It's taken me half an hour so far, and I've still got the other set of spokes to do. So this is going to be a long video, guys. Yeah, so one of the attempts that I made, I did get all of these spokes in, and then when I came to do the second set of spokes, that's when it all went. I got about a third of the way through and the whole lot went. And the one plus is that these won't fall out of the holes in the inner wheel, so you will be able to figure out which spoke is which. They do look different, but it's knowing which ones are the first spokes and which ones are the second spokes, because they are designed differently. So let me get this spoke in, and then what I'll do is right, so I'm going to stop one short there, and the reason I want to stop one short is because I want to show you these spokes. So this is spoke A, and this is spoke B, which now looks exactly the same. So interesting enough, they are actually different, so, but they don't look that different. Right, so the one last spoke on the first row is going in now. And there you go. And then whoops, see, look, I've just dropped it and one spoke was knocked out. So that tells me that it's not been spring loaded. That was an accident, guys. I didn't do that on purpose, but it did serve as a very good demonstration. There we go. Now they're all in. It's hard to show you because this one is completed, but because I know where the spokes are, I can see that they are absolutely correct. So next job, I'm just going to give that a little bit of a wiggle, and I can't move that, so that tells me they're in nice. So next set of spokes, which is from issue 55, we're going to do exactly the same. We're going to arrange them into a set of 4. Can you see that? Yeah, you can just about see that. Another set of 4. For speed, I'm not going to arrange all the pin heads, because otherwise it could be another half an hour. And then we have a set of 2, another set of 2, and then another set of 2. Hopefully these are still on camera, but if they're not, you'll know what I'm doing. Oh, they're still on camera. Right, so I have done them a set of 4, a set of 4, 2 sets of 2s, 2 sets of 2, 2 sets of 2, 2 sets of 2. You don't have to do this, but it just means that for me, just by looking at the piles and where the gaps are, it will tell me exactly what my progression is like. So first spoke, any spoke that we want, so I'm going to go into this one, and just like before we lift it through, only this way it's going the opposite way, and we will find a spoke and that will go in there, and what we're looking for is that it goes off at the same angle as that one went off. Again, we can compare this, and again I need to know, do you know what guys, I wonder if that's the wrong way round. I think I've done that the wrong way round. So this spoke is actually meant to go that way. So that will go in there. Like that. So let me just double check. Yeah, okay guys, I'm really sorry I've done all of this wrong. So I'm going to have to take this spoke out. It isn't a disaster, because all I need to do is just rotate these spokes. So we'll lift some of the couple of these up, and then we'll rotate this one to there, like so. Then we'll rotate this one, not this one, this one, and we shouldn't be building up any tension because they're still held in there, but there is a possibility. So this could go horribly wrong guys. So for the sake of the build, I'm going to speed this bit up. So same principle applies. Obviously I've just done them in the different order. So when I said you put them onto that side, you actually put them onto that side. This is why I like to keep a reference, because otherwise what would have happened is I would have completed all of this and then I'd have got all the way to the end, right. And I was correct the first time. No, I'm spot on. Right. So I'm trying to use this as a reference, and I'm trying to compare the undersides. In fact, let's actually take this off. Could always put it back on again. I'm sorry guys, I have completely cocked up, and hopefully I'll be able to fix it all. But you see how fragile that is. So yes, I have got that correct. They definitely go off that way, because I'm looking at this one way and looking at this the other. It's difficult to determine. So carefully place this back on. Right. Okay, one spoke has come out. Remember, this is only being held in by tape or blue tack. depending on what you used. So right, to go back to the second part, which is putting the neck spokes in. So we now need to grab any hole that we want, any hole that will do, and that's gone through the spokes, which I didn't want to happen. There we go. So we now need to move that to a spoke. Right, this one's come off, so I'll fix that. Fix this one immediately. Don't continue. You'll get yourself in a muddle. So the question we ask now is that going off at the correct angle? The way we know is if we look at the spoke next to it, it should form a perfect equilateral triangle. Equilateral triangle? Basically a triangle with three sides of 60 degrees. Also, another way to tell, if we move it to the next one along, it's not quite going to reach. If we move it to the other one, it will fit, but you can see that there's a lot of leftover on the inside. So that's two ways to check, and having carefully got that in place and then moving it for the benefit of the camera for the film, it's made it hard. So that's the first one in. Same rules apply, we work opposite. We don't want to try and twist this too much. So next one along, 1 2 3 4 5 6 8 9 10 11 12. We pop that one in, and this one you'll find is a little bit easier because of the fact that it's slightly higher up. So we've got a little equilateral triangle, and 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12. That's equally spaced, but I can see that some of these spokes are trying to fall out, so we will just adjust that and fix where we can. That one's very out, look. There we go. Right, and I can see that sometimes by pushing one spoke is pushing another one out, and that's because of the tightness of the wheel. It's making all of these spring loaded. So we've got our first two in, so we now need to put our third one in. 1 2 3 4 5 6. So once we've got this, the fourth spoke in, it becomes a little bit easier, and then once we've got the eighth spoke in, it becomes easier still. Trust me. 3 4 5 6. Right, that one's come out again. So I'm now starting to question why these spokes are coming out. Might be that we might want to just reinforce that with a little bit of glue, which I have done on previous issues. Right, so there's our fourth spoke in. So if you look on top, there's a lot of spokes to look at. There's one there, one there, one there, and one there. And it's getting hard to see because you've got all these spokes all over the place. So this set is easier, but it's harder to see. So 1 2 3, we go in the third one, and also don't forget to count the tops on the outer rim. So 1 2, it wants to go in this one. I'm actually now, because I've done the first set of spokes, I'm not counting the notches, I'm actually counting the spaces. So you can see that there's no space in there for another one. There's space there, there's space there, there's the third one. Right, and then we go opposite. And this is why I lose track, because of where I place my thumb. I almost lost that spoke there. This is why I tried to pick them up with a pair of tweezers. So that one goes in. Right, okay, so I pushed that one in and that's made another one pop out. So we fix that immediately. And 2 more to go. Well, 2 more until we've done this set of 4. I don't know if you can see this all well because obviously I'm not looking at the camera. Yeah, I'm not actually looking at the camera when I'm doing these. 2, 3. So if I do lose focus, I do apologise. So that's the 8 spokes in. Now, my eyes have gone boggly, so I'm actually going to take a break. So you're going to see the camera transition. Secondly, I don't know if you've spotted it, but I've just had a phone call, so I'm just going to get that. So I'll see you in a second. So my apologies for that. I don't know if you've noticed the light difference, but the quick break turned into an overnight break. So to review where we were up to, we put 8 spokes in on the second level. Really hard to see because of the colours, but there they are. So what we're going to do now is with our four groups of 2, we're now going to start blocking those in. So we'll start anywhere we want to start. So I'll start on this block, and sorry, I'm going to have to move the camera. I can't actually see it very well. I might even have to change my glasses as well. So please forgive. So that one's going into there like so, and this one goes into the next one, and let's see if we can do this properly, unlike the last row. I can't believe, do you know what, I do this recorded and I get it spot on. As soon as I decide to do the full build, I'd make cock up. So there we are, that one's filled in. So the next one we want to do is this opposite one. So remember that what this is trying to do each time is just pull that center hub. So by doing the opposite side, we're pulling the hub back. It's only slight movements, probably, I don't know, 1/10 of a millimeter, if that. But obviously if we do that 10 times, that 1/10 of a millimeter turns into a millimeter, and now we're starting to talk about a significant gap. So if we pull it across 1/10 of a millimeter, and then obviously we're doing 2 spokes at the moment, so that would pull it 0.2 of a millimeter. So when we do the opposite side, that's going to pull it back. So we've done this side now, and that's starting to look good, as does this side. But now we will do the 90-degree angle, so it's this gap there. So this time I'm starting to use my thumb. That was what I should have said earlier on. Use your thumb. A, it holds it all down nice and firmly, but also it acts as a marker. So that's that one in, and you'll notice, if you're anything like me, that these are going in easier, because by the time you've got to this set of spokes, it's pretty much established that middle cog. So you see that's going in fine. So now we want to turn to the opposite one, which is this one. So obviously I'm filming this over 2 days. I believe I said at the beginning that the first row of spokes, the first 4, the first 8 are the hardest ones to put in, and I think it's beginning to show now that these are much easier to put into place because most of the hard work has been done. So there's another 2 in. So now all we want to do is just fill that last 4 bits in. So it's not actually just the fact that it's easier to do, it's also the fact that by the time you've got to this stage, you've kind of got into a bit of momentum. There's what 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 24 spokes, and by the time you get to about halfway through them, you've done that many that you just build the momentum. There we go, those 2 in. Now this one, I noticed there's one here that slipped, so we'll always repair first. And it is also very hot in my room at the moment, so it could well be that the heat is affecting the blue tack, which is actually a point against blue tack. But then again, once it's warm, doesn't it go stickier, so it would actually make it better. But if you were using double-sided sticky tape, it would be a little bit more consistent. There we go, that one's in. Now this one I notice is out of place a little bit, so we'll do a little bit of repair there. That's fine, that's gone in perfect. Actually, I noticed that one was wrong. That one had actually turned over, flipped over. So always checking your work. Fantastic. So we've got just 4 more spokes to do, 2 sets of 2. And I did notice on the earlier in the video, and I do apologise, that sometimes I went a bit off camera, and I think I'm doing that now. So I'm just going to bring the camera back. The problem with that is that to get the good camera angle for you guys, it means I have to work sideways, but that's the way it is. So this one's giving me a bit of trouble. There we go. And this one. So there we go, and we're down to the last 2 spokes. Sorry, I've gone very quiet. I go very quiet when I concentrate. Right, so, oops. So I've just noticed I've just knocked a couple of spokes, or 1 spoke out. So just get those into place. It's going to happen, guys. You will accidentally knock one. Maybe the blue tack wasn't quite so thick in that area. Maybe I didn't push it in enough. Maybe it just didn't want to stick. Right, so there we go, guys. So there is all of the spokes in place, and we're still at a dangerous point here. Right, bear with me a sec, guys. I'm just going to have to just pause the camera. Okay, so my apologies for that. So we're still at a slightly dangerous place here. This could still all knock up. So we have this last piece that we want to install, and what this will do, you'll notice that there's some notches in there, and that will lock those spokes into place. So which way round do we do it? Well, we have a little notch there, see it at the 12 o'clock position, so we look for the notch in here, and there it is. Let me demonstrate with my tweezers. So there is the notch there, so that notch wants to line up there, and that goes in there like that. and then we want JP2 screws. Now I always make a point of saying that when you're screwing screws into plastic, you let the wheel, let the screw tell you when to stop. This is the one exception that I make. It's a bit of a gamble, but I pop that first screw in. Bear with me a sec because I'm having a little bit of trouble with this screwdriver head. I think I've selected the wrong size. That's better. So I put the first screw in just enough to bite, then I put the opposite one in, just enough to bite, then I pop the third screw in, doesn't matter which one it is, almost there, and then the fourth screw, whoops, that's come off the screwdriver. Right, then we'll have a check, and instantly I can see that some of the spokes have fallen out. So that means the only thing I can do now, I'm afraid, is to remove the screws and go back. It's a bit annoying, but obviously if I didn't go back, you're going to have odd spokes and it's going to look really ugly. So it could be that I tilted the wheel too early. Again, it might be one that didn't want to stick. Maybe there's not enough blue tack there, but we'll have a look and then we'll assess. So that's odd. I definitely saw some spokes out of place. Ooh. Now they're out of place. Right, so sorry guys, I'm just going to have to just fix this. So what we do now is we have a choice here, and you'll have seen me do this in a previous video. Some of these I've just not quite put enough blue tack or tape or whatever in, adhesive. Sorry if you hear a scraping, I think I'm catching the camera with my microphone. Right, so okay, I've got a stray spoke there and I just can't get to it without knocking other spokes. This is how it goes, guys. Sometimes you've got to knock some other spokes to get to the one that you want. So I think I did say at the beginning, you do need patience. So if you are 100% confident that they're in properly, another option you can use, and it's a tough option because I can't get the lid off. Right, so I'm going to use a different glue. So let's find some scrap. So a bit of scrap plastic, cocktail stick, and then we'll just pop some glue on and we'll just glue them in. The reason that we're using sticky tape is so that it's not a permanent bond. Right, I know I've deliberately made those come out, but I couldn't tell which ones were loose. So there's a loose one. So a little bit of glue there, and that should hold that in. You only want to do this if you are absolutely 100% sure that everything's fine, because once they're glued in you're never going to get them out. But sometimes one or two just needs a little bit of extra help. Do not apply too much glue, because if that glue is a bit too much of a blob, you will see it on the finished model. Okay, and I think I'm confident with that one. And it's actually the outer spokes that are not sticking well, so I'm going to just give that another shake test. Now I'm confident. So we'll go back, so we find the notch there, and the notch there, we place that in. In that particular instance I only glued 3 of the spokes in, so I think that's a good job there. I think on the last wheel I think I glued half a dozen in, and that's what I was saying about it's a little bit different. It doesn't tell you to do that in the magazine, and if you don't feel confident doing it, then please don't do it. But what it means is that if you accidentally knock any spokes while you're at this stage, it's not going to matter because they're not going to move. So going back to what I said earlier on, these are now screwed in just to bite. Normally I say let the screw tell you when to stop, and that is normally how I screw plastic to plastic, or with a plastic screw. However, one thing I now do with these, checking the spokes, let's remove this. Now you'll notice that you've got a big blob of blue tack there. That's really easy to remove. All you do is you get a little bit of blue tack, roll it into a ball, and then you just touch it, and that's how you remove the blue tack. So a little bit of residue there, so we'll just touch that and it all comes off. So we fully examine our spokes. I think they're gonna be absolutely fine. So this is the bit where I make the exception with the screws. I put those in, it's told me when to stop. I'm going to give that about 1/8 of a turn more. Not much, and you do obviously risk threading the screws, but I think that's reasonable. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just give those a gentle push down, and I can't feel any of the spokes moving. So look how firm that is. There is a bit of movement there, and that's because we've only got 2 sets of spokes in. So let's compare that to another wheel that I've done. So I've labelled all of my wheels, and this one, that is absolutely rock solid, and that's what's going to happen once you get the second set of spokes in. So that's this issue finished. In the next issue, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be putting some spokes in the top piece, and they're actually going to go down through the spokes and then come out the other side there, and then we'll lock that in place with another ring. So you've got your first set of spokes like that, and then your second set of spokes go like that, and that's when they become really, really solid. So that's a pretty solid structure, but it's still a little bit fragile. So what I like to do until I've completed the next issue, pop it back onto the little jig. You don't need to blue tack it or anything, but then just pop that in a safe place. So I'm storing mine in this is my Jaguar drawer. I have one of these drawers for every part work. You can see there I've got the screws. So we'll pop the leftover screws back into their relevant pots. So there's my JP screws, which I've JP02, which I've just been using, and then this goes into my drawer ready for the next issue. So that was a very long issue. I'm going to estimate that one at about I don't know, 40, 50. That's about an hour and a quarter, and I know it's a really long issue, guys, and I'm really sorry, but these wheels are really long issues. But I hope that has satisfied your need to watch the whole thing in full. Please drop a comment below and tell me what you thought. Would you like me to continue doing full builds? I'll be honest with you guys, I have enjoyed doing these speeded up builds and then popping a little bit of music on, but primarily I'm enjoying the building. So however I do the video, I'm still building. So drop me a comment, tell me what you think of this video. The next video will also be a full length video because I will be finishing off the spokes. Let me give you something to look at while I talk to you. So yeah, the next video will be the full length video of completing this wheel. So please drop me a comment, tell me what you think, and then we'll take this series of videos further, hopefully better and more enjoyable for everyone. So take care, guys, and hopefully I'll catch you next week. Bye bye.